When you are doing, you are not thinking as much, like at all. This is the kind of action, like rapid, fast, messy action that's gonna get you to the level you wanna get to. Welcome to the High Vibe Life podcast, where we are obsessed with all things manifestation, neuroscience, personal growth, and quite simply, living a life beyond our wildest dreams. I'm Moira Casava, author, speaker, podcaster, manifestation, and mindset master. Since getting sober 25 years ago, I've helped tens of thousands of women break through and achieve massive levels of wealth, joy, and freedom. Now it's your turn. Let's dig in. Welcome back to the show, you guys. I am thrilled to talk to you about this one little nugget today. So it's going to be a super short, sweet episode. This is something that I find myself saying and talking about and teaching all the time, everywhere. Like every retreat I've ever run, every mastermind group I've been in, stages I've talked on. But here's the thing. I've had this conversation with like strangers in an airplane. I've had this conversation at family holidays where people are asking me for advice. And it always comes down to like this one kind of simple concept that I feel like a lot of people are missing, and it's at the foundation of what is keeping people stuck, right? Whether they're stuck with, gosh, I can't move my business forward, or I'm stuck in this relationship, or I'm stuck in an unhealthy place, or I'm stuck in this funk, like we're all stuck in one way or another, right? And I do a really good job of getting people unstuck. And so when people are so desperate to kind of figure out like, what am I missing? What am I missing? What am I doing wrong? I'm doing all these things, but I can't seem to move the needle in this area. Please help me. I always say, listen, I believe that there's only two things that hold you back from success in whatever area it is that you're trying to achieve it in. Two things that hold almost the whole world back. Are you ready for what those two things are? Number one, a lack of being able to manage your time. People cannot manage their time, right? Number two, and this is where everyone's like, oh my gosh, you're so right. Overthinking. Overthinking. We are thinking about things until we are blue in the face. We're talking to our friends. We're talking to our spouse. We're talking to a therapist. We're thinking. And we're just stuck. We're stuck in the overthinking. And when I say we're stuck in like not knowing how to manage our time, we're just doing all these things throughout the day that aren't actually moving the needle. So a lack of time management and an overthinking problem is the large majority of what is holding people back, right? So how do we fix this? Well, if you know me, I am an action taker, right? And I love to teach, and this is not the episode today, but I love to teach time management, which sounds so unglamorous and so not fun. But y'all, like when you start to become a time ninja and you start to own your time and you start to show up with focus, clarity, and intention, and you start to just crush your days. I mean, I want to tell you this too. I was so bad at this like a decade ago. I could not manage my time. Like I would feel like I worked for 12 hours and then I'd be like, oh my gosh, like what did I even do? I'm exhausted, but like the needles didn't move. Like nothing happened. What the heck have I been doing for all this time, right? And it would just kind of slip through my fingers. And so I had to teach myself how to be good at time management. But here's what I'm going to tell you. And again, I have episodes where we dig into time management. I can link them in the show notes. But the most important thing to know when you're like, oh my gosh, I'm so bad at time management, is that I always say time management is like addition. Like, I think that was probably first grade, 2 + 2 = 4. Like, not rocket science, y'all. Not rocket science at all. So don't let a first grade level task hold you back from every dream that you want to achieve in your life. It's not that hard to figure out how to manage your time. And here's the beautiful thing. When you figure out how to manage your time, what's happening is you're actually getting into the right action, right? You're getting into action. You're moving the needle forward. But here's the cherry on top. When you are doing, you are not thinking as much. like at all, right? When I am doing things, like think about it this way. I would maybe think about something for 30 hours and then the action that I took took me 45 minutes. Like that's insane, but that's the reality. We can think about this. We can do a social media training and we can, be in this class and we can take this course and we can talk to all of our friends, our business associates about our social media plan. And we can think this through and think it through and think it through and bounce this idea off and bounce this idea off. And then the action of actually posting on social media takes 10 minutes. 10 minutes, but we just talked about it and thought about it and like went around and around and around for hours, right? And we didn't just take the action, which took 10 minutes. Now my life looks like 95% action, 5% thinking about the action, right? And so you have to start to move like I always think of like a seesaw, right? Like here's how much you are overthinking and here's how much action you're taking. And it takes time to kind of, get to neutral and then start to tip the scale into I'm taking way more action than I am thinking. And so I want to point this out too, because this is important. I talked about this on an episode just recently where we really want to tune into our own intuition and our feelings about what action we're supposed to take. But if you've got a business and say you've never done social media and your new business does require social media, well, you do need some level of expertise, right? You do need some level of like somebody teaching you what to do. That's a good thing, but they don't know everything. They are not tapped into your dreams and what you want to do with the world, right? The universe is so much more powerful than anything that they can tell you to do. So this is where I want you to do both, right? People are like, do I do this or do I do that? You do all of it. That's the kind of action that I'm talking about. I can remember like years ago being interviewed again and again and again and again because I was having so much success in my business at the time. And people would say like, what's the one thing? Like, what are you doing to find success? And I'm like, And I just remember being like so kind of naive back then in the best of ways and green. And I was like, and I wasn't this like super worldly smart business person. And I was just like, no, I didn't just do that thing. I did that thing and then I did that thing and I did this thing and I did this and I did this and I did this and I did this. And I started to realize that I was having success, not because I had some magical strategy, but because I was taking massive action and doing all of the strategies, right? I was trying all of it. And I was getting a little bit back from every avenue that I was trying to go down. That's how you're going to have success. I mentor and coach women in business all day long. And they will be on calls for hours, in trainings for hours. They'll want to get on a one-on-one call and bounce ideas off of me. And I'm like, listen, with just what you've spent, the time you've spent in trainings in the last 24 hours, you could have moved your business forward 20 steps if you had just been in action, right? So get into action, y'all. And this is what I want to leave you with. Well, a couple stories really quick before I leave you with homework, because I do believe in homework from these episodes. I think about, Tony Robbins used to say, it was this quote that he would say, I never leave the place of like that moment of inspiration without taking action. And so as I'm thinking about this whole action episode, I'm thinking about two people. I'm thinking about several of my top people that I've mentored that have had wild success over the years, and also thinking about myself in this capacity, that I can be on a call and I can be teaching and training, and the people that are the ones having radical success, maybe I mention a book and they're like literally on their phone and they're like Amazon cart purchase, and then I'm like, and do this and do this and do that. Well, by the time we've gotten off the call, those successful people have literally taken 5 steps of action, that the wheels are already in motion, right? Like they've already set the wheels in motion of taking the action that's going to lead them to the next level, where the usually 95% are just kind of sitting there absorbing the information. And let's take the example of a book that I suggested. You know, maybe they get off the call, and this was me back in the day, where I'd be like, oh gosh, you know, I'm thinking about getting that book that she suggested. Have you read that book? What were your thoughts on that book? What was your experience? Yeah. And then a week later, I'm like, oh gosh, yeah, I was thinking about getting that book. I'm wondering like what kind of an impact it might have. Just get the book, right? Order the book, start reading the book. This is the kind of action, like rapid, fast, messy action that's going to get you to the level you want to get to. I kid you not, whenever I think about action, I really didn't understand this a decade ago. I used to think like the best, you know, the New York Times bestselling authors or the keynote speakers that I admired or the coaches that I admired, I felt like they must have been born into the world as good writers or good speakers or good coaches. That cannot be further from the truth, y'all. What I have come to learn is that they just decided to go for it. They took messy action, right? They got in front of a room or in a room with 3 people and did their first speech. They put things into action and you get better along the way, right? And I always say this, social media is probably the best example of this, because a lot of what I do in the world of mentoring and coaching and business is social media. And everyone wants to know, like, you know, all the things. And I'm like, listen, you're not going to get better at social media by me talking to you more about social media. You're going to get better at doing social media. The more you do it, the better you get. The more stages I've spoken on, the better I've gotten at speaking. The more people I've coached, the better I've become as a coach, right? The more people I had to lead, I couldn't learn leadership in a book. I had to start leading people. This is a whole nother podcast, but I had to start leading myself first, right? I always say you're never going to lead other people if you can't lead yourself. So it's in the doing that you are going to find the growth in that area that you actually want to find. It's not, and I'm not saying everything against like a training or a course or a mentor. There is a small sliver that you want to learn from people that are, you know, where you want to go. But it is 5 to 10%, and then the rest of it is you taking action. That's the best school that you are ever going to have, the school of action. All right, so here's your homework. I want you to write down a goal, right? Like, what is one goal that you want to achieve? And I'm holding you to this. Here's the first question you're going to answer. What are 3 actions that you can literally take today? What are 3 actions that you can take today, not tomorrow, but today, that are going to put the wheels in motion to get you to that goal? What are 3 actions that you can take today? Second question, what are 3 actions that you can take this week, right? There's probably something you could do immediately, but you just can't do it today. So what are 3 actions that you can take this week that are going to move the needle forward to get you to that goal? Third one, what are the 3 actions that you can take this month? Right? Maybe you have to meet with somebody in a couple weeks at a coffee shop, and that's just not going to happen today. It's definitely not going to happen this week because they're out of town, but you're going to make that happen this week or this month, right? What are 3 actions you can take today? What are 3 actions you can take this week? And what are 3 actions you can take this month? Fourth question, there's only 5, don't worry. What friend can you call today? So that would be one of your daily actions. What friend can you call today that's going to hold your feet to the fire? Because making that commitment verbally to someone else is huge. I cannot tell you the power of accountability in my life and how that has been just a catalyst for my success is everything. It really is. All right. So who is a friend that you can call today to hold your feet to the fire? And then lastly, what other friend can you call today to make that verbal commitment to, right? There's going to be, the first friend is kind of like your push friend, right? Your bully friend in a good way. Like you want someone that's going to call you back and be like, hey, you told me to hold you accountable. I am here to like push you, to coach you, to kind of just be your cheerleader, but in a firm way. Who's that friend? And then the last question is, and this might be like your mom, right? This might be your spouse. This might be your aunt that you can just call and say, hey, it was suggested to me to just reach out to somebody and say, this is what I'm going to do. I'm making a verbal commitment to this goal, to this dream, to this hope, and I wanted to share it with you. Okay, those last two questions, you guys, are number 1 and 2 of the first question, right? What are the 3 things you can do today? This is what we're talking about. We're talking about action. So put pen to paper, start writing these things down, and that is the best thing you can do to put this action episode into action, because I want all of your dreams and all of your hopes and all of your goals to come true. And I know that action is such a huge part of it. And when you get into action, you get out of overthinking. All right, you guys, I would love to hear from you. Message me on Instagram, shoot me a DM, tag me in this episode, and we will see you next week. Thanks for joining.